I know why you clicked on this video. You want to know what's really going on with Disney's newest attractions and announcements, right? Well, you are in luck because today we're going to take a closer look at all of Disney's most recent announcements to uncover the truth about what you should really be expecting for the future of our parks. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we've got a lot to tell you about today, so I'm gonna make things quick. Disney's dropped a ton of clues about everything that could possibly happen for their newest attractions, but in order to uncover those clues, we've got to dive deep. I'm talking analyzing the concept art, listening in on Imagineering interviews, and maybe even taking a step back into the past to figure out what on earth is going on over at Disney World and Disneyland. Now, little disclaimer here before we get started, I need to warn you that not everything that we discuss today is for sure going to happen for these rides and lands and shows and experiences. A lot of this boils down to Disney's blue sky process, meaning they're not even sure if this stuff is going to happen. So this is us taking the opportunity to figure out what Disney could mean by the things they've revealed about these attractions so far. A lot could change before a certain attraction is finally ready to make its big debut. That happens all the time. So be sure to sign up for our free DFB newsletter so you can stay in the know about any and all official updates that we come across regarding the things we're talking about today. I'm going to link our newsletter sign up page down in the description. It's always down there if you ever want to sign up for the newsletter. Okay, we're going to start with Test Track. Now, I bet a lot of you didn't even know that Test Track was actually going to get a revamp, right? In order to really appreciate what's about to take place here, we got to take a quick look at this attraction's timeline. World of Motion was an opening day attraction before all of the changes, and much like Spaceship Earth and its adventure through the evolution of communication, World of Motion took us on an Omnimover rider through the evolution of transportation. But when General Motors, the sponsor of the World of Motion attraction, renewed their contract with Disney, they requested a new ride that was more about the high speeds and thrills, and thus Test Track was born in 1999. The 99 version of Test Track is actually fairly different from how we know it today, because way back then, guests were transformed into test dummies as they rode new car models around the different tracks to see how well these new speedsters would hold up when pushed to the absolute limit. Now in 2012, Test Track dropped the whole dummy act and took things into the future. When we ride Test Track today, we get to build our own cars during the pre-show and race them against each other while we're riding in a more Tron-like high-tech setting. So the ride is pretty popular with guests, and on most days you're going to see it pushing a 60-plus minute wait pretty much all day long. However, during the Destination D23 convention this year, we learned that Test Track is about to undergo its third extreme makeover, Car Edition. So here's what we know for sure as of now and why I had to pregame this point with Test Track's timeline. So according to Disney, Test Track's reimagining will be reaching back into history for inspiration from the original World of Motion and bringing that spirit of optimism to the next iteration of Test Track. So dude, in a day and age when so many of the new and reimagined stuff we're getting in the parks is IP based, this is a pretty shocking revelation, but what does reaching back into history actually mean for this ride? Back when World of Motion was still in motion, guests would ride past scenes of man as he created new means of transportation from the bicycle to the airplane. Currently, Test Track focuses heavily on current technology with a nod to future possibilities. While we don't know the details about how Disney plans on taking inspiration from the old World of Motion, it does sound like they might be incorporating more of a full timeline of the evolution of transportation once more, to flesh out more of a storyline for this ride. Now, we didn't get a whole lot of concept art for this reimagining, but the concept art we did get gives us more of an idea of what these ride vehicles may look like once redesigned. Right now, it doesn't look a whole lot different from the vehicles we ride in, just with a new jet black paint job replacing the techno blue, but the overall design does look like it's already pulling from the former Omnimover models, especially with that rounded out front portion of the car. But let's take a look at one more area of this concept art that you might not have honed in on before, but that's, the most interesting part to me. Look at the greenery in the background. The tree, are we in a forest? It seems that at least one scene is going to take us into a very tree-heavy portion of the ride, which, who knows, might take us into a scene or scenes similar to what we saw during the World of Motion days, maybe? Currently, Test Track does pass by a few scenes to emulate different driving conditions, like how a vehicle would fare in various climates or in tense situations, where a literal glowing semi-truck is headed straight for you. So this greenery may just be an over-speculation on our end, but then again, there may be an important reason why Disney chose that lush background for their first ever concept art for this reimagined ride. Nothing is by mistake in Disney concept art, my friends. Now, this updated test track could feature scenes that are more akin to the ones we would have seen on World of Motion, with more animatronic illustrations of history guiding us into the future, instead of a simulation strictly set in the world of tomorrow. Currently, we don't have a clear-cut timeline for when this ride is going to have its major overhaul, so expect it to still be the same high-speed car sim experience that we've had for the past 11 years if you plan on visiting Epcot in the near future. But eventually, this ride's going to go down for an overhaul, and we'll be able to gauge from the length of that overhaul how different this ride's going to be. All right, we're heading over to Magic Kingdom, and while MK food isn't exactly my favorite Disney food right now, I will say that some of my favorite park eats and sweets are located inside Adventureland, like Skipper Canteen, for instance, and Sunshine Tree Terrace. Aloha Isle is over there, and even that little spring roll cart right outside the entrance. So the fact that we're going to be getting a new Pirates-themed tavern in Adventureland sometime in the future gives me really high hopes. Now, Disney didn't release a whole lot of detail pertaining to the upcoming lounge during Destination D23, but what they did reveal was some concept art for the new space. So, you know us, we had to start digging for Easter eggs within that concept art. And I think we've gathered some pretty decent clues for what could eventually be added to this new space. Oh, this video is so much fun to record because I love talking about this stuff. So the most obvious thing we noticed is that Barker bird who takes up like almost half of the picture. This guy used to greet guests as they entered the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, and he was also featured at the end of the attraction for a little bit, like a nostalgic icon. So it does make sense for him to make his grand return inside the new lounge, right? Maybe he'll be an animatronic like Rosita over at Tropical Hideaway in Disneyland. Only time will tell. The next thing we noticed about the concept art was some fiery red hair among a sea of sepia. You know who else has fiery red hair? Our swashbuckling Red, who was added to the Disney World ride back in 2018. Nearby, you can also spot another iconic ride character, the sleeping man with the pigs. Now, that's not to say these characters are for sure going to make an appearance in this lounge, but I think they will still play an important part in the unraveling story around this village tavern, since Disney's already announced that this space will, for sure, expand on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride lore that we know and love already. And check this out. It seems the characters in the tavern are using barrels as chairs, with a bar-like area off to the side surrounded by kegs. Could this be a big hint at the style of tables, chairs, and overall layout we'll see in the space? Very possibly. Now, the next big question is, where is this lounge going to be located? Yeah, I know Adventureland, but where in Adventureland? We've got our speculations, but no concrete evidence just yet. So we just have to sit tight with our two big guesses for now. Guess number one, we could see Tortuga Tavern reimagined, since this quick service is directly across from Pirates and has limited hours as is, so we wouldn't be missing it too terribly much. They've got a pretty big space, they've got access to a kitchen, so everything would kind of already be in place for that. And guess number two, since Barker Bird once greeted guests at the entrance of Pirates of the Caribbean, and since in the concept art he seems to be greeting guests into the area again, that could mean the tavern might be placed in the former Pirates League area, where kids used to be able to get pirate makeovers, similar to the princess makeovers from Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. From what we know, Pirates League is currently being used as a sort of break or lounge area for Adventureland cast members. It's also right next to the Pirates ride, so, prime real estate for a Pirates-themed lounge. Tortuga Tavern seems a bit large for a lounge space, but Pirates League seems more intimate and exclusive, if maybe a few walls were knocked down inside. Now, I don't know, all speculation, but what I do know is that if they don't wind up serving any rum here, Captain Jack Sparrow will riot. And therein lies the big question right now. With this being a Pirates Tavern and what have you, will it be a place that's going to serve alcohol or not? Really, it all depends on what type of tavern Disney's going for here. If it becomes more of a full table service, then yeah, alcohol should get the green light pretty easily because they do serve alcohol in all the other Magic Kingdom sit-down restaurants. But if they're planning on making this into another quick service location, Magic Kingdom's fast food joints don't serve guests any alcohol, so things could end up drier than we'd expect them to be coming from a Pirates hangout. Unless Pirates Tavern ends up being the first Magic Kingdom quick service to serve alcohol? It's all up in the air. All right, I've got some big feelings about this next one, so hang on, folks. We got some major sleuthing to do. Back in 2022, during the D23 convention over in Anaheim, we learned for the first time ever that Disney has been putting some serious thought into a brand new expansion for Magic Kingdom, including a whole new land. During that panel, a few Disney leaders discussed some potential ideas that could expand the park beyond Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Disney called these what-if ideas to really hammer home the point that this is all hypothetical. The team mentioned a few different concepts like Coco and Encanto or a Disney villain-themed area. Yes, amazing. Now, fast forward to Destination D23 this year, 1 year later. Once again, Disney brought back the idea of expanding Magic Kingdom with what could potentially be their largest ever expansion for the park. It was also said that whatever this land ends up being will be told on a scale similar to things like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Pandora, including the addition of new attractions and restaurants, shows, and more. And yet, we're still being left hanging on this giant cliffhanger. What is Disney really planning to add to the Magic Kingdom? Out of the concepts thrown out during both of these D23 events, which ones might actually become a reality for the park? What makes sense? Okay, I just gotta throw this out there. It very well could be that none of the potential ideas we were given end up coming to fruition. After all, we can already eliminate one possibility, kind of, since Encanto is looking like it's getting ready to expand an Animal Kingdom instead, which we really didn't expect to happen, but we'll talk more about that later on. So that brings us back to two possibilities, Coco and Disney villains. And while neither is set in stone, here are some key reasons why I feel like it's a good probability that we will see one or the other announced during the D23 convention in 2024. First, let's talk Coco. Disney Parks, Experiences and Products Chairman Josh D'Amaro stated that Disney has a wealth of untapped stories to bring to life, but he specifically called out Pixar's Coco as a world just waiting to be explored with lots of storytelling opportunity. So far, we've only seen Coco sprinkled into the Disney scene here and there. PhilharMagic added a scene to their show in 2021, highlighting the musical number Un Poco Loco. Epcot's Mexico Pavilion has winks and nods to Miguel and his crew, featured in La Celebración del Día de Muerto, featured in the celebration exhibit toward the front of the Epcot Mexico Pyramid. Disney California Adventure makes Coco the main attraction during Hispanic and Latin American Heritage Month through a musical celebration over at Paradise Gardens area as well. And just recently, we learned that a new rotational dining experience themed around Coco could be added to Disney's newest ship, the Disney Treasure, when it takes to the seas later in 2024. So really, a whole realm strictly dedicated to Coco could be a possibility. I mean, think of how that area could really transform each night once the sun goes down. And the stage shows that could happen here would be very cool and very acoustic heavy. But what about a realm just based around Disney's best antagonists? Should we just say goodbye to the potential of a Disney villains area? Nah, I don't think so. Not yet anyways. Here's my big speculation with literally no legs to stand on other than the knowledge of how Disney's handled projects in the past. A Disney villains area would be the perfect response to the potential Universal Monsters area that we may see over in Universal Studios' new park Epic Universe. If rumors are true, and there's a whole lot of people out there who really think this is more than just a big possibility, then Epic Universe may currently be building a new area in their park centered around those classic movie monsters we love to hate, like Dracula, Frankenstein, and plenty of other spooky folks who are mostly just misunderstood. Now, I'm not saying that Disney's hovering nearby, taking notes and muttering to themselves, but I mean, that is how they got the idea for MGM, now Hollywood Studios, back in the day, by drawing direct inspiration from Universal Studios' movie-centric park. So, in order to compete with Epic Universe, which is currently slated to open in 2025, having a Disney villains area could be the perfect foil to Universal's monsters. But then again, it's like I said before, both of these concepts could be scrapped for something completely different. When it's all said and done, there's no way of knowing for sure, one way or another, until we hear it straight from the mouse's mouth. Out of all the new stuff we're talking about today, Tianas Bio Adventure is probably the one we know the most about so far. So what do we know about this reimagined log flume? First, it'll be based around Disney's animated film, Princess and the Frog. Second, the setting will take place during carnival season when Tiana is hosting a Mardi Gras party for the people of New Orleans. Third, many of the characters we know and love from the film, as well as 17 brand new characters, will be featured during the ride, with many of those classic characters voiced by the same actors from the movie. Fourth, we're getting some new animatronics inside the ride. We even got to see a sneak peek of the Lewis animatronic Disney's been working on, and we're excited to finally see him in action playing his little trumpet. 5, it's slated to open in 2024, and 6, the ride will be opening in both Disney World and Disneyland. But we're not here to talk strictly about the certainties. We want to talk about the possibilities too, and I've got 3 possibilities for you to mull over. The first one, we might just see beignets pop up in Magic Kingdom. I know, I'm excited. Disneyland recently opened 2 new Princess and the Frog inspired locations in New Orleans Square, a gift shop and a quick service location. Now, the gift shop, called Eudora's Chic Boutique, opened in 2022 and sells a line of merchandise featuring Tiana's own spices and sauces. Well, it will eventually, they say. Meanwhile, the Tiana's Palace quick service, which opened this year, serves up comforting southern dishes inspired by Cajun and Creole cuisine. There's a house gumbo, a po' boy, and a muffaletta sandwich, and Gulf shrimp and grits. And yep, you can also pick up an order of hot and sugary beignets too over at the Mint Julep bar window. And there's an exclusive lemon-filled beignet at Tiana's Palace, which, by the way, used to be French Market, if you didn't already know that, but you did, because you watch our videos. Now, since both Disneyland and Disney World will be getting this new Tiana's Bio Adventure next year, it's not totally far-fetched to assume that maybe Magic Kingdom's gonna get a Princess and the Frog themed restaurant too somewhere down the line. I personally have talked to a lot of Imagineers and gotten some wink wink nudge nudge when I've asked them about this, so I'm hoping that it's sort of on the horizon. Now, the only place you can now pick up beignets on Disney World property is over at Disney's Port Orleans French Quarter Resort at Scat Cats Club and Cafe. So having Tiana's specialty dessert featured in a more easily accessible location for guests might be something Disney World's just waiting to announce when the ride gets closer to opening up. Also, Disney has mentioned that they're going to be pumping a sweet beignet smellitizer throughout the queue, so it'd sure be mean of them if they teased us with the idea of fried sugar goodness but didn't follow through on it. Now, the second possibility for this ride, Dr. Facilier could make a reappearance. While Disney did list off the specific cast of characters that you can expect to see during the ride, they conveniently left out any mentions of the Voodoo Man himself. Now, who knows, maybe that's just because Dr. Facilier is now stuck inside the spirit realm for all eternity and we don't really have to worry about him anymore. And yet, some of the features Disney's mentioned for this reimagined ride make us question whether that's really going to be the case or not. After all, for a ride to be interesting and compelling, you've got to have a story, and to have a story, you've got to have a villain. Now, back in 2022, during the D23 convention, Disney announced that a new mist element is going to be part of Tiana's Bio Adventure, which sounds like we might be in for a few spookier scenes. The video they showed had a lot of colorful lights shining into the mist, and especially a lot of shades of green. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about eerie green mist, there's one particular Princess and the Frog character who comes to mind, and it isn't Lottie. Could there be an appearance by Dr. Facilier and the Shadow Man during this story? I wouldn't be mad if Disney decided to drop him in to stir up the drama, especially if it means getting to hear the Friends on the Other Side song reprised. And finally, if you're wanting to guarantee a ride on Tiana's Bio Adventure, I'd be planning a 2025 trip instead if I were you. While Tiana's Bio Adventure is currently slated to open in late 2024, in both parks, a lot can happen between now and then. It could potentially push that timeline back. While it could still be right on track to open in time, I always play it really cautiously with those looser timelines because a loose timeline gives Disney a lot of wiggle room to work with if they need to. We've seen timelines push back recently for things like the Cake Bake Shop over in Disney's Boardwalk Inn, which was originally supposed to open by the end of this year, but is now slated to open in spring of next year. And before that, Roundup Rodeo Barbecue from Hollywood Studios had to bump back their opening date many times over until the restaurant finally started welcoming guests by March of this year. Does anyone else feel like that was forever ago? Now, Disney also has been known to open things earlier than expected too, like we saw happen with Journey of Water, inspired by Moana, and Shikisai Sushi Izakaya, both over in Epcot. But if you don't want to gamble with your Disney trip and you want to make absolutely sure you're able to ride this new log flume experience during your next visit, I'd hold off on picking any specific dates for your trip until Disney announces a more clear-cut timeline for Tiana. Next up, we're going to talk about some bears. A lot of controversy bubbled to the surface when Disney announced they'd be reimagining the classic Country Bears Jamboree show inside Magic Kingdom for 2024. Even an actual bear came into the park to protest it. Just kidding. It was totally unrelated, but still, quirky coincidence, right? And I think that just based on the not-so-subtle hints Disney's been giving us about the future of this one, we can see why there might be reason for concern for those longtime Disney World fans out there. One main thing, the Country Bears Jamboree is an opening day Magic Kingdom attraction. And it's also one of the last attractions Walt Disney himself had a direct hand in creating, so it's got a whole lot of nostalgia wrapped up into it. The fact that there's a good chance for some of those classic and slightly questionable songs to be taken out of the new show set and replaced with more IP-heavy songs, like Bare Necessities for instance, is making longtime fans feel like Disney's trying to make glamour edits to a vintage Polaroid photo that's capturing simpler times. And while the new show poster still includes some of our favorite characters like Big Al and Trixie, other bears seem to be conveniently missing from the lineup, so it'll be interesting to see who gets to return for this new performance and which bears are going to be filing for retirement next year. Now, Disney does want to assure guests that this revamped show is still going to have that fun and friendly tone the Country Bears are so well known for. It's just going to be a more modern-day version of it. Imagineers are envisioning the reimagined experience as an homage to the classic musical revues in Nashville. And to make things as authentic as possible, they're working directly with Nashville musicians to get that classic country sound. That way, those familiar Disney tunes we already know by heart will be presented in fresh styles, like country, rockabilly, and bluegrass, to make them feel brand new again, and also keep true to the Country Bears spirit. While we don't know exactly when this new show is going to be ready to welcome Magic Kingdom guests through the doors, here's what I can tell you. Between the Tianas Bio Adventure reimagining and all these Country Bears updates, expect to find a very construction-heavy Frontierland for at least the first half of 2024. We've been hearing about the Communicore Hall and Plaza forever now, but it's still difficult to wrap our minds around the overall scale of this new Epcot area, let alone what we can expect to find in it when it finally does open up by the end of this year. But since it's getting closer and closer to opening, we're starting to learn more and more about it just by watching the construction progress. First, let's start with the basics. Communicore Plaza is a new area that'll bring Epcot's many festivals to the center of Disney World. Essentially, it'll serve as the home base for those Epcot festivals and live events. If you've been following the Epcot transformation closely, you may remember Disney previously announcing and sharing concept art and models for a whole festival pavilion and not just a festival kind of stage. That pavilion was originally going to be the hub for Epcot's festivals and live events, and based on the concept art, it was going to be a 3-story structure with a plaza level, a middle expo level, and a park in the sky on the top level, which looked really cool. Now, while Disney hasn't explicitly confirmed this in so many words, it seems Communicore Hall has essentially been updated and adjusted, and it's no longer that 3-story structure. That being said, this new Communicore area is still going to have some exciting stuff going on, we think. Communicore Plaza is actually the whole area of this new festival hub, and within the plaza you'll find Communicore Hall, which is being designed to host a wide variety of experiences with food and art and live music and a demonstration kitchen and a mixology bar. Now, when I hear about things like demonstration kitchens and mixology bars, I automatically think back to the days of Epcot's Food and Wine Festival and how it used to be before 2020. Back in the good old days, Food and Wine used to offer special programming like culinary demos and beverage seminars, food and beverage pairings. So could Communicore Hall finally bring this programming back to the Food and Wine Festival for 2024, returning it to its former glory? Well, we hope so. Now, according to Disney, Communicore Hall will also be the home of a dynamic exhibition space that will transform with each festival throughout the year. Sounds pretty cool. Now, in some of the concept art that was highlighting this exhibition space, it looks as if the gallery space, specifically for Festival of the Arts, could feature all kinds of unique paintings, a colorful figment statue, an inside-out display, perhaps with some interactive elements, and plenty of other spots for folks to take selfies, like near that Steamboat Willie statue that features an explosion of color. The areas in the plaza beyond Communicore Hall will provide an outdoor space for festival adventurers where guests can come and relax and kind of soak it all in. One of the main spaces appears to be attached to the end of one side of Communicore Hall. There, you're going to find an area that'll host large-scale concerts or more intimate performances. Currently, festival concert series take place over in the America Gardens Theater and the American Adventure Pavilion. Which brings up a real important question I've had for a long time now. What's going to happen to the American Gardens Theater in 2024? Will it continue to host different outdoor shows? Will it be completely reimagined? Or will Disney end up getting rid of it altogether? Guess we'll have to wait and see. And finally, I want to talk about one last area inside the Communicore Plaza before we move on to our next point in this video, and that's the World Celebration Gardens. So World Celebration will soon be divided into several different gardens. They're going to offer lots of shade and seating for guests, and each one will have its own identity, with the ability to change and go along with the festivals throughout the year. Disney's shared that at night, the gardens will take on a whole new life where lighting will immerse guests in an illuminating evening experience. And based on the images that Disney has shared, it looks like those beloved twinkling floor tiles that were once featured in the old Future World area will be returning in a whole new way. Communicore Hall and Plaza is currently slated to open this December, so we are going to know the answers to all of our questions really soon. Keep checking back here with us for future updates because I expect we'll have a more concrete release date real soon. So now it's time to head over to Animal Kingdom. It seems Disney has heard our cries of terror and is swooping in to save the day, but it's in a way we did not see coming, like at all. Last year during the 2022 D23 event, Disney spoke about the possibility of bringing Zootopia to Disney's Animal Kingdom, and it sounded very much like Zootopia could have morphed into its own land here, which would have made a lot of sense. After all, this is Animal Kingdom we're talking about, so a realm run by predators and prey working together felt pretty seamless in a park that's also focused on predator and prey and all things wildlife. It made even more sense when you consider that Shanghai Disneyland is getting ready to open up their full Zootopia area, meaning Disney has the technology and blueprints for a Zootopia area already at their disposal. However, Animal Kingdom decided they were going to take things in a whole different direction with their land expansions, which I'm going to talk about during the next point. So instead of a Zootopia land, it seems Animal Kingdom might be getting a Zootopia attraction instead, right inside the Tree of Life, which means it's tough to be a bug's days are potentially numbered. Disney's current concept for the new Zootopia experience will take you through the different biomes that you only catch glimpses of during the movie, all while traveling alongside Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde and all your other Zootopia favorite characters. Based off the concept art, expect another 4D show to be happening here, since the Zootopia cast seems to be jumping out of the screen and toward the audience at full speed. The concept art also seems to indicate a possible Clawhauser animatronic off to the right-hand side, where Hopper resides now, just to torture us. Again, just based off the Shanghai Disneyland tech we've seen teased for their new Zootopia area, we know Disney's capable of making a really cool and really realistic Clawhauser, so it'll be awesome if they can do the same for us over in Orlando. Now, question. Who's going to replace Flick, who pops out to greet all those honorary bugs from the top of the theater during each show? The concept art is unclear about that, but judging by the way one of those business formal hamsters is popping out of the screen toward the bottom of the concept art, definitely gives me the same Flick popping out of the dirt vibes, even if it's in the wrong location. I don't know. The moral here is that anything could happen between now and the show's completion, whenever that might be. But that's only the beginning of what's in store for Animal Kingdom's future, and I know you've been waiting for this part of the video. So let me rip off that band-aid real quick. Dino Land USA is headed out. This isn't a hunch, this isn't speculation, this isn't me spitballing. Animal Kingdom is ready to move things in a new direction over there in Dino Land, and while that direction may still be a ways off, giving us more opportunity to enjoy Dino Land while we can, Disney has given us a little taste of what the future might hold. Now, I know I already made a disclaimer at the beginning of this video, but I've got to make another one here real quick, and this is a disclaimer with a disclaimer, so it's disclaimerception. While we do know that Dino Land USA is going to get an overhaul, Disney has only suggested what will take its place. Nothing has been officially confirmed yet, so here's what we know about Dino Land's future replacement per the release of this video. Currently, Disney's looking towards South and Central America for inspiration because of the high density of animals in both of these locations. Right? They've covered Africa, they've covered Asia and other areas of the park. Now they want to cover South and Central America. Now, if this tells you how incredibly fluid Disney's plans are for this park, back in 2022, when a potential expansion was originally announced for Animal Kingdom, Disney brought up the possibilities of a Moana or Zootopia area instead, so this Tropical Americas concept is pretty different from what we were initially told. If Animal Kingdom does go forward in this new direction, potential areas within the Tropical Americas could incorporate stories like Encanto and Indiana Jones. And now it's time for the concept art. Let's focus on the most colorful and obvious clue in this picture, the multicolored structure in the back left-hand side, based off of Casa Madrigal. If you've seen Encanto, then you already know how the Madrigal's home has several magical elements on both the inside and the outside. So wouldn't it be cool if the new Encanto attraction ended up being a Haunted Mansion-style dark ride, but instead of a house filled with 999 happy haunts, it was filled with the Madrigal family magic and songs? Call it wishful thinking, but judging off the concept art, Casa Madrigal is going to be a major beacon of this new area in some way, shape, or form. Okay, this next section of the concept art, the circular area toward the bottom, seems to be maybe a carousel. Maybe this is sort of what Triceratops Spin is going to turn into. Since Animal Kingdom will have to either demolish or retheme its current aerial carousel, it does make sense to incorporate a different family-friendly flat ride here to make up for it. But is that the Mexico Pavilion I see over on the right? Obviously, Epcot's not invading Animal Kingdom or anything, but it looks like we might see a similar pyramid featured in this land too, and if it's anything like the pyramid over in World Showcase, that means it could potentially hold shops and restaurants, maybe even an attraction. Now, I know what you're thinking. It seems like I'm avoiding the elephant in the room, or rather the Carnotaurus in the room. Yes, with this new area, it looks like the dinosaur ride might be rethemed too, and more than likely, if it is, it'll be rethemed to Indiana Jones. The probability is actually really high on that one, since the dinosaur ride uses a very similar ride system as the Indiana Jones ride currently in Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. But if I were a betting gal, I'd say the Animal Kingdom version of this Indiana Jones attraction would still be slightly different from the other two, since each Indiana Jones attraction that exists thus far is based off of a different indie adventure, although they both feel very, very similar to one another. Anyway, the one in California takes you through the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, and the one in Tokyo takes you through the Temple of the Crystal Skull. Still very bumpy and scary. Okay, now we're headed to the multiverse. Time to move our sleuthing over to the West Coast, specifically speaking inside DCA, Disney California Adventure. And even more specifically speaking, inside Avengers Campus, where the multiverse is about to take over as it should. So, since we're talking about multiverse and time traveling here, let's travel back in time before Avengers Campus was ever a thing. Back when Avengers Campus was originally announced for Disney California Adventure, there was talk of a ride that would allow guests to fight side by side with their favorite MCU heroes. And yet, when Avengers Campus did open up in 2021, the only new ride we got was Web Slingers: A Spider-Man Adventure, where we are definitely not fighting alongside our favorite MCU heroes. We're fighting alongside our weak little arms that can't even move anymore when we're done with that ride. Now, it's unclear whether or not the multiverse ride that Disneyland's currently getting us hyped up for, which will be placed in the heart of this new multiverse section, is going to be the same ride that was supposed to be built in the park originally. Regardless, a new MCU ride is back on the table, bringing together several Marvel superheroes in an ultimate battle against King Thanos. Now, is it just me, or does this concept art for the multiverse look familiar? Maybe really familiar. Don't know what I'm talking about? Let's take a closer look. At Destination D23, Brent Strong from Disney Imagineering explained the big bad idea behind the new ride. Basically, the Avengers have developed a new technology that allows Avengers Campus to become a sort of hub for the multiverse. This includes a new vehicle that can transport recruits to new worlds in a split second to go on a multi-world mission. We also got to check out the new ride vehicle concepts, which will feature a design that combines elements of Tony Stark's time suits with Xandarian jump points and Wakandan technology. For all of you who visited Epcot in the past couple years, all of you Epcotians, you probably know what I'm talking about now. The Xandarian jump point and ride vehicle featured in this concept art looks a whole lot like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, right? So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if this ends up being another backwards launch coaster of sorts. Now, I wouldn't be mad if this were the case, because Cosmic Rewind's a good time. But if this is true and we really are getting another coaster similar to Cosmic Rewind, I'm going to have to remember to pack my Dramamine before heading out west. Now, hearing about a potential Disneyland attraction centered around Pandora World of Avatar, that was a pretty big shock for everyone. And by everyone, I mean even the people currently involved in the project. When Disney CEO Bob Iger initially announced the project back in February, it was a big surprise to even the Disneyland Resort president, Ken Potrock, who stated, "It's great when you hear from your boss what you're doing." Disneyland planners still don't know exactly what this project is going to entail, but Potrock went on to say that Imagineers are working alongside director James Cameron and his team to create something really exciting and bold. And that's basically all we've got to go off of right now. Kind of hard to sleuth around here when even the Imagineers are shocked by these kind of revelations. But if I were to take a shot in the dark, I'd guess that something exciting and bold isn't going to be a rehash of what we already have over in Animal Kingdom. A lot of people are talking about them bringing over Flight of Passage, and I do not think that's going to happen. More so, I could see this new attraction, whatever it might be, centered more around the newest Avatar film, The Way of Water. After all, this Avatar sequel was pretty well received in theaters and ended up breaking a lot of box office records, so it makes sense that Disney would want to expand on that franchise in the parks too. And also, Bob Iger used the word attraction, not ride, and Disney uses attraction when they want to cover all their bases. Okay, now it's your turn. What do you think is bound to show up in the parks next? Let me know down in the comments so we can keep the detective work going strong, and don't forget to sign up for the DFB newsletter so I can let you know directly if any of our Disney predictions actually come true. Fingers crossed on some of these. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.